Wherever you are, I would like to welcome you to Let's Talk with Pastor Ngwaru Shaw. On this particular show, we address issues of life. We address marriage. We deal with family. We touch on retirement. We touch on business. We touch on leadership. We also touch on issues of spirituality. We touch issues of health. And I would like to really welcome you in a very, very special way. And I would like to believe that tonight we have a very important and interesting discussion that we want to share together. And the topic that we are chasing tonight is don't let conflict kill you. Don't let conflict kill you. I don't think that this is a strange idea to every one of you who possibly could be listening right now. We have actually seen a lot of people, millions of people perishing to conflict because either it was political conflict and whatever the case may be, but we have seen displacements in millions, people dying in millions. We have also seen maybe in business organizations coming down and even getting to a point of closing because people do not know how to deal with this thing that is called conflict. Conflict can also ravage your individual life, maybe at a family level, at a personal level, you and your brother, you and your sister, you and your mother, you and your father, maybe you and your pastor, and you and your friend. So tonight, basically, we are not addressing marriage. We are simply addressing interpersonal conflict where it's you and the other person, or it's you and another group, or it could be two groups, or whatever the case may be. But I'll be much interested if I can keep it at an individual level where you can actually, as I discuss, you can actually picture your relationship with the other person and you can develop images in your mind as I speak to you tonight. Again, I would like to welcome you and I want to believe that you are going to benefit a great deal. We are simply going to discuss principles and general broad statements on how to deal with areas of conflict that I am going to identify here. A more detailed discussion, we may have to do this in series, but that is something that could actually be coming in the future. And before we get into this, please suffice to say, conflict, there are two sides to conflict. When you're in a conflict, the outcomes could be very destructive. And sometimes the outcome may be very developmental. There are people who are developed today, they would not be where they are today had it not been of the conflict that they went through. And some people are leading miserable lives and you don't know what to do with them. Their lives are miserable and they are where they are today because of conflict, and more especially how people responded to conflict and how people were managing conflict. Let me quickly define conflict. And by the way, this discussion, I am indebted to Daniel Goleman. The broader statement that I'm going to be making are coming from him. But of course, there's also a lot of my personal creativity into the discussion that you also need to appreciate. So how does he define conflict? And he says conflict is power struggle over differences. Power struggle over differences. Differences could be of opinion, could be differences of ideas, and sometimes, do you know that we can actually be in conflict because we are not agreeing on a particular decision that must be taken? This is very familiar, especially if you attend business meetings and political meetings, and when you are in parliament, and what have you. This is some of those things that you see, that there is this battle between opposite sides, where one side wants to win the other side to their side, so that at the end of the day, you can actually say, I have won them over to my idea, to my opinion, and what have you. This very thing that happens in organizations, it happens in governments, also happens even between two people, where you may actually fight over an idea, and you are looking at it differently, and what have you, or there's something that must be done, and somebody thinks like, let us do it this way, and the other one thinks like, no, it must be done this way, and so forth, and you find there is this power struggle. The element of power struggle here is conflict, by its very nature, is a struggle where you are trying to win the other person to your kind of thinking. And this is where the element of power struggle is coming in. But I would like to further ask another very important question, maybe, which is provoked by our discussion, and which is, how does conflict kill? If we say, do not let conflict kill you, basically, how does it do that? It's very simple, friends. A conflict that is poorly managed, a conflict that is poorly managed, may actually lead to the demise of a relationship. It may lead to the demise of an organization. A whole organization may fail, because people are failing to manage conflict in the right way. So let us not play when it comes to conflict. When there's a conflict situation between you and the other person, you must know that your relationship is primary, your relationship is very important. But if you then fail to work around this conflict, you may discover that the relationship itself may actually be in danger. And this is what we are talking about here. One of those things, after reading from Goldman and other writers, one of the reasons that possibly people find themselves in the negative side of conflict is basically, sometimes we don't know what kind of conflict we are engaging in. What is the conflict situation? What type of conflict is this? Because if you don't know the kind of conflict that you are involved in, chances are you will bring distortions in trying to solve the problem situation that you are in, because you do not understand it exactly. And therefore, friends, I would like to suggest to you that there are about three types of conflicts, and each particular conflict has its own way of dealing with it. And if you do not understand how to deal or to work around it, you may actually exacerbate the problem that could be before you. And the three types of conflicts, and I am sure we can put many more other types of conflicts if you want to. And I don't know what books you have read, but the one that I have read tended to suggest three types of conflicts. And it's not saying this is all, but it helps to give us a working definition. So the three types of conflicts, number one is conflict over differences of personality. Conflict over differences of personality. And then the second one, of course, is destructive conflict. And then, of course, we have transformational conflict. Let me try to unpack this so that we may all appreciate and understand what exactly we are dealing with. I want to pick, first of all, conflict over differences of personality. And I'm sure we all know that personality is your general demeanor, your general way of approaching life, your likes, your dislikes, and all these things, your temperament and everything, your signature. When we look at you, how you behave, how you do things, your hobbies, everything put together, we actually come up with a signature that is called you, or your personality, and what have you. And under this particular type of conflict, let me look at things like your dislikes and your likes, which are informed by your personality. Do you know there are people that really love to be in the company of people sanguines? Like if you relate with me, you know that Pastor Ngwaru enjoys people. I enjoy to be in the company of people. I enjoy to go out, eating out, meet people, and stuff like that. If it was not for this COVID thing, man, I really enjoy meeting people. That is how God has made me. This is my natural disposition. But you may also have another person who are kind of withdrawn, and they are melancholic. They don't really want to be in the company of people. They cannot stand crowds and what have you. So when this is the case, we are just giving an example. There are many other differences. It could be entertainment or other things where our personalities will clash. But when you are clashed this way, where your likes and dislikes are in conflict and what have you, what exactly is causing the conflict? What exactly is causing the conflict? The major thing that possibly is causing conflict in that situation is that you want the other person to be like you, or the other part wants you to be like them. You are fighting because for you, you see life this way, you want things done this way, and this is something that fits within your personality and your temperament, but you want to impose that on other people. It does not quite work. And this is why when we ask a question and say, so how do you solve a conflict that is based on likes and dislikes, which are informed by our personalities and so forth? Psychologists and sociologists would like to agree to say that, look, there are conflicts that do not need solutions. You do not need a solution to that particular conflict. Simply accept other people as they are, that they like things that you may not like. They want to be where you may not like, and whatever. So allow each other to experience life in the manner in which God wired us and God manufactured us. These, our natural dispositions, are gifts from God. You cannot impose how you look at life on another person. It will be an unnecessary conflict that may lead to unnecessary strain in a relationship. Let me also go to destructive conflicts. Destructive conflicts are just as they sound, destructive. They are very destructive. What do I mean by this? What I mean by this is these are conflicts where you find yourself, you are fighting each other to death. And in the process, somebody can be beaten to death, somebody can be shot, or somebody can be maimed in the situation. Children can be abused beyond measure, a spouse or anything, or a relative or a friend. And after you have done that, you look at the mess you have caused and you wonder, what drove me to do this? And it's normally driven by rage and stuff like that. So property can be destroyed. You pick a TV, you smash it on the floor, hoping like you are not even going to watch it, but after a day you regret why you ever did that, and so forth. So when conflict gets to a point where things are being destroyed, people are being destroyed, lives are being destroyed, you may actually see that sometimes people may actually commit suicide. You may not be killed by another person, but you may actually look at the conflict and tell yourself, I think I'm better dead than alive, and stuff like that. All these things can actually happen. One thing that we have also seen taking place as far as destructive conflict is concerned is when you go on a campaign to defame another person. another person. In other words, you want to kill and destroy their character, and we call it character assassination and what have you. So you find the joy in making sure, look, this is how I'm getting even. I'll leave you dead in terms of reputation. And when people look at you, you're just as good as dead. Let us slightly go deeper and find out exactly what exactly is happening in this particular situation. What makes people get to that point? Of course, some of the reasons why people get to that point is they have failed to deal with their conflict, or they have not been listening to each other, and then at the end of the day, the whole thing becomes volatile, very explosive, and whatever. And when you are in that situation, your goal then shifts. It shifts from solving the problem that got you into the conflict situation. You no longer want to solve that one. But the goal that you want to now accomplish is to destroy one another, to destroy things, and to vent to a point where you care less about what happens to anything. When you get to that point, one thing is very clear, friends. One thing is a very, very clear, friends. People that are caught up in a destructive conflict are really demonstrating that they have lost the capacity to negotiate, to bargain, to dialogue, and to reason over the issues that are going on. And now they are now thinking through anger, through rage, and through anything else that can do anything, including, like I said, defaming each other in public and stuff like that. So how do you then survive in a situation like that? If you are already caught in something like this, and uh, the whole situation is destructive, how do you handle that? Let me say there are no easy answers to this. There are no easy answers. But some of those things that may be very important for you to consider if you find yourself, you are into a very abusive situation. You are in a situation which is very volatile. Anything can happen at any time without you knowing. You find you have been shot, or something has happened, or you have been beaten up, or you have been bent, or something has happened, or you don't know what happens the next minute. You may actually want to consider changing the rules of the game. Your way of helping yourself has not been helping. It's not delivering, and you cannot continue solving your conflict the way you are doing and hoping there'll be different results. No, friends, you are wasting your time. You'll be wasting your time. You need to get a point where you really want to accept that, look, we are failing to manage this thing. We have tried and tried, but we are failing to manage this thing. And I think time has come that we may want to think of other strategies of how to deal with it. Some of those things may have to include professional help. There are people that are trained to help people like you or people like me who may be caught up in that. You really need, they could be your psychiatrist, your psychologist, your counselors, or peer counsel. I don't know. You may need people that have got skills that are able to help you in that situation. And sometimes where destructive conflict is involved, and sometimes legal issues come in because the rights of people are being compromised. And you may also want to revert to the legal industry and see if there could be no solutions over there. Many people demonize looking for psychological help. We demonize going the legal way in order to solve things. But I want to tell you, sometimes it becomes very necessary to go in that route. And sometimes you may find that it may be very necessary for security and safety, where you may have to bring in law enforcers to actually save you from anything possibly that may endanger yourself in that regard. If it is defamation and whatever, there are people that can actually deal with your defamation so that your character is redeemed in the process, if it can be. So these are things that you can look at. You can go to significant others. It doesn't have to be professionals and whatever. And sometimes within your support system, you have a way that is very effective, that when you go there, you'll be able to find real solutions. So destructive conflict does destroy, and it's because people are failing to admit that they're failing to manage this whole thing, and that you have come to a point where you need external help. And when you don't get external help, you start destroying each other, you start destroying property, and it will not help at the end of the day. Let me also suggest something as I quickly go to the last one, and that is, why would you continue talking when you're talking and you know you are going to end up beating one another? Why remain in that situation when you know that at the end of the day you may be shot or something, when you swear this is going to happen and what have you? So I'm sure part of dealing with destructive conflicts is to be able to walk out of the tension and give it a break. Come when you are a little sober, it will help a great deal. There are a lot of people that think by talking and talking they're going to solve, but you can actually tell you're wasting your time because nobody's listening, everybody's talking, and it's not helping in any way. Finally, friends, I want us to look at transformational conflict. And again, transformational conflict, as the name suggests, it's a conflict that leaves you transformed. It leaves you a better person. It leaves the relationship much better than the conflict found it. And so when we say people in transformational conflict are in conflict, what exactly is happening? Let me not fool you, and you may not also need to fool yourself. When you are into transformational conflict, it does not mean it's bread and butter. It does not mean the discussions are very smooth and calm and people are drinking tea and they are differing nicely. Sometimes there may be tears. Sometimes the people are standing up, and sometimes, hey, it's a rough moment. It's a difficult moment. But at the end of the day, no matter what is happening, uh, people that are caught up in transformational conflict are moving towards a better outcome. Their fighting is leading to a better outcome. Their quarreling is leading to a better outcome. For the first time, I heard something from Dr. Papu in Cape Town, and he said, lovers quarrel. Sometimes that which does not appear very natural may actually be very natural to life, where lovers may not want to talk to each other for some time. Sometimes they quarrel, and sometimes you shake your head, you don't understand. But at the end of the day, when you manage this thing better, you discover that, men, the outcome is much sweeter than before the conflict itself. So, what is the driving force in transformational conflict? The driving force is the need for growth and development. Do you know that? Do you know that there are people that you can actually find they are crying, and the discussion is hot, and but they are not caught up in trying to destroy one another. Or all they are disagreeing on is, how do we manage this thing better? The common denominator between them is, we want a better outcome out of this. We want a better organization after this. We need a better relationship after this. We need to relate better after this. And this is what is putting them to conflict. Many times in organizations, that is very common, where you have an agenda, the organization needs to move forward, but people are not looking eye to eye on how best that can be done and whatever. So this is the nature of transformational conflict, where it inspires people towards better life, towards a better decision, towards a better management of life, and a better quality of relationship. What solution is then needed? What solution is needed in that particular situation? If you are caught up in a transformational conflict, um, how do you go about it? Broadly, the solution is you want to discover the lessons learned. This conflict that is causing us sleepless nights, that we are fighting over, what are the lessons that it is presenting? To me, that is a very, very critical. In any situation where we have a conflict, try to find out lessons that both of you are learning. And so that at the end of the day, you may actually say, I have learned to manage things better this way. I've learned to make such a decision because if I make it, it will do this. I have discovered that my character is affecting my relationship this way. If I stop with this, this will begin and start in my relationship, and sweetness and the pleasure and the joy will come into this whole thing and what have you. So we are saying, find out what the lessons are. Even after tears, after quarreling, and you are seated, now you are reflecting on what has happened. Try to learn lessons from your conflict. You know, many people simply want to solve problems. They want to solve problems, but they don't want to learn from their problems and from their conflict, so that you don't repeat the same the other time. So let me also say that the goal, the whole goal of transformational conflict then is to emerge with a better relationship. If I don't know if there are some of you who have actually been through transformational conflict, and when the conflict is resolved amicably and very well, and the people discuss the lessons learned, and the people are willing to go transformation and reformation and reorganize your life, that life tends to be more sweeter than before. People become nicer than before. Life is enjoyed much better than before. That if conflict can be managed this way, where we are not just forcing the other person to be like me, which is conflict over personality differences. That is futile. I can never be like you. You can never be like me. If conflict is not destructive, where we are not solving problems, but we want to kill one another, we want to destroy things and then regret later when everything has been destroyed. No, we want a situation where definitely it is human to be in conflict. It's human, it's normal. And I'm saying sometimes the conflicts are very painful and what have you, but it is the outcome of the conflict that matters. After your fight, then what? After your quarreling, then what? After your struggle, then what? I would like to invite you to a life where you know conflict is normal, but above it being normal, you treat conflict as a learning curve, as a school of improving life and the relationships. Friends, I would like to uh, propose that you continue watching, because next time we want to bring out now exactly the nitty gritty. How do you go about achieving this transformational conflict? What are the dynamics? What are the rules? What makes it work? We want to discuss that next time. But for tonight, I would like to thank you very much for being part of the discussion. I want to thank you for listening, and I hope you have found one or two things that are going to improve your ability to deal with the conflict. And remember to subscribe, because when you do so, you are telling the world that this channel is good for human development. Until next Thursday, God bless you and good night.